It's the inaugural record release from Discograffiti. Metal Machine Muzak is a slanted tribute to Lou Reed's divisive 1975 double LP Metal Machine Music. Lester Bangs called it the greatest album ever made, but no matter how it hits you, it's always been the ultimate music freak's secret handshake. My ambient reimagining features 4 16-minute 1-second tracks, just like the original, and each one was created by a top-shelf indie rock visionary. Lou Barlow from Dinosaur Jr. and Sebadoh, Corey Hansen from Wand, W. Cullen Hart from the Olivia Tremor Control, and Mark Robinson from Unrest. That's right, not a slouch in the bunch, unlike 99% of the compilations you've ever begrudgingly purchased for the one and only band on it you just had to hear. Metal Machine Muzak will not be available on streaming. The digital version is finally available for purchase, and the vinyl will be shipped this summer. Pre-orders for the LPs are available now, but they're going fast. They're being produced in a very limited edition run of 300 numbered 180-gram metallic silver double LP gatefold copies, only 100 of which can be ordered online. These copies will be numbered from 1 to 100, and they're first come, first served. To order either the digital or the vinyl, just head over to patreon.com/discograffiti/shop. Again, that's patreon.com/discograffiti/shop. Don't miss out on Metal Machine Muzak, the ambient experience designed to make Brian Eno run screaming. Welcome to Discograffiti, the Music Obsessives podcast that gives freaks like you and me the chance to connect with the brotherhood obsessed with rating the entire discography of every single artist and band that ever mattered. I'm your host, Dave Gebroe, and with 4 new episodes each week, you're going to gain a comprehensive knowledge of an act's history and output in the time it takes to listen to one album. Each new guest swings a hard left into an area you either had no idea you needed to know about or know all about and can't believe you're not alone out there. I support a wife and a 5-year-old son with Discograffiti as my sole source of income. So if you love the show and this episode, please Venmo me a tip at David-Gebroe, that's Gebroe, or PayPal using my email address, which is davidbgebroe@gmail.com. I'm guessing you probably stuff $1 into a tip jar when you buy a muffin. Please then, gauge this podcast's worth side by side with simply being handed a muffin. My family and I thank you. And in this episode, we'll be turning our spray cans on the Jesus Lizard, Psst, along with our special guest, No Age's Randall. Okay, first things first, you need to know just how seriously I take this craziness. Discograffiti is a music obsessive's dream come true. The guest and I explore an artist or band's entire discography in a futile but valiant attempt to reach a higher truth, which is often cleverly disguised as a nerdy compendium of star ratings and lists. The show is heavily researched and the music is always reassessed with fresh ears. We don't just cover albums. We do a searingly honest deep dive analysis of all EPs, singles, comp tracks, relevant solo work, and sometimes bootlegs and live stuff. Every release is slapped with an objectively accurate star rating between 0 and 5, which allows us all, the real reason we do this, the Tootsie Pop reward at the center of the rock and roll lolly, to come face to face with the true shape of an artist's overall arc. Coming up, we've got a career-spanning interview with the Beatles' Pete Best, Tom Morello rating the MC5, an interview with Thurston Moore, Robert Schneider from the Apples in Stereo rating the Strawberry Alarm Clock, Cassandra Jenkins rating her entire catalog, and a massive, many-guested launch into the Beach Boys' entire catalog with... That's right, the Beach Boys themselves, in a series called The Beach Boys and Your Dreams Come True. So don't miss out. Open up your listening app right now and subscribe. And away we go then, with an overview of the entire catalog of the great Jesus Lizard, that is everything up through, but not including today's release of Rack. I know Randy and I can't wait to hear it, but alongside the experience of devouring their first album in many, many years, please enjoy our overview and history of their entire catalog. As far as I'm concerned, tonight's guest is a contender for recipient of Daydream Nation's past baton. Emanating from the LA club The Smell, and boom! Just like that, you've witnessed the latest in an endless chain of lazy journalistic references to which this dude and his Pressiverse bro, Dean Allen Spunt, have been hogtied for the better part of 16 years. All things being fair, it's a pretty unavoidable association due to the incendiary brutality of his particular art punk slant. But our guest knows that at the end of the day, he's just like me, a skin bag spilling over with old moldy notions of who we once were as our little dudes hijack the remote and make us watch goddamn Blippi and all other manner of horrifyingly charmless toddler figureheads. I'm guessing over his last 8 kid-having years that he's taken great pains to find those areas within himself that he can seal off behind him as he hides deep, deep inside, and that those narcotized interior spaces are beginning to tilt towards ambience inclusive beauty, at least if one is to use his 2019 solo release and new No Age Jam as criteria for judgment. But then to go right ahead and request an episode covering the evisceratingly family unfriendly touch and go touchstone that you did makes me realize that you must actively hate me, sir. So, lads and ladies out in the most art damaged, punk fucked corners of Discograffiti'ville, please, won't you always sing "It's the beginning of a no age" whenever you meet this guy, as revenge for making my family endure Yao's howl for the good part of 2 solid weeks. It's No Age's rockin' and venerable Axeman, knob twiddler, and weirdo ripper papa to a 3 and 8-year-old, Randy Randall.
Wow, David, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Holy, I was trying to remember the introduction that David Yao gives on their live record show. It was an honor to play here at the CBGBs in such a relaxed and conducive atmosphere. Thank you for having me, man. This certainly is a quite the undertaking, and I am in no way, shape, or form authorized by anybody to rank these records. I do not have any jurisdiction or authority to judge anything that this amazing band has done. I say that just as a disclaimer, get that out of the way right up front. That
bullshit. As a disclaimer, I have to tell you that you're totally underestimating your own capabilities in this area. If anything, I'm the guy who needs to come clean, because in the 1 year we've been doing this, and I say we to make it sound bigger than it is, it's me. Yeah. In the 1 year that I've been doing this, I've never done a band, except maybe for Stevie Nicks, which was a request that I wasn't familiar with at all. The only song I knew was Mouth Breather.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you had a lot to take on.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I came to Jesus Lizard in the early 90s. I mean, I'm 41 now. And so like many people of my age, Nirvana Nevermind, took me from, listening to Do the Bartman and MC Hammer's Addams Family Values soundtrack to wearing ripped jeans and, sporting a flannel in the middle of summer in Southern California.
Right.
With my, the floppy haircut was shaved underneath and parted in the middle, and just ate up everything that kind of came from that world. And so I kind of went from, Nirvana to Sonic Youth to My Bloody Valentine, and at the side of it, there was, sort of Helmet. And then Jesus Lizard sort of dropped in my lap with the single. The first release of theirs I had was the single or EP, Lash. I had that on CD, and that just opened me wide up. The song Monkey Trick, I think, was like, right, of that, like of the pantheon I just spread out. Certainly it was not Fox children's music, and nor was it really Nirvana or Sonic Youth or My Bloody Valentine. It was something else entirely, and I was not familiar with the releases of The Birthday Party or Scratch Acid or that little discordant sort of chugging along kind of notion of music had not really been introduced into my atmosphere. And so I plugged Jesus Jesus Lizard into that sort of syncopated, abrasive, confrontational, yet, head trippy kind of math rock meets Art Damaged sort of vibe that just locked me in early. And so they were the band I judged everything else against in that regard, in terms of, piercing guitar sounds, pummeling syncopated drum sounds, yowling from, Professor Yow. It was all the bass, rumble, everything. I was like, they sort of were the template that I judged most music from, really, even, for the rest of my life.
Are you discovering this stuff as it's coming out, or in retrospect?
I would think so, somewhere. I mean, so I'm looking here, I don't have the dates tattooed onto my brain, but I'm looking with the help of the never wrong, infallible Wikipedia. And I see Lash came out in 93. So that sounds just about right. Because what we put Nirvana, at 91, 92?
Yeah, 91 is Nevermind.
Yeah. So I'm 10 years old. In 91, 10, 11. That sounds about right. Somewhere I bet 92.
So you're actively, as a 10, 11-year-old, seeking out this kind of stuff. Was this, had you
weird music,
had you already discovered Funhouse?
No. So Stooges came. I had to retroactively insert that into my brain. So I have two older brothers. They were born in 68 and 69. 68 and 69. My older brothers from my mom's first marriage, so like half brothers, but we were raised together. Okay. And my oldest brother, Sam, who was a skateboarder, guitar player, music fanatic. And my other brother, Dave, he was also a big music fanatic, but he leaned more on the Jane's Addiction, kind of psychedelic cults, the band The Cults, and these, he went a little more metal with his likings, where Sam was very like, of the time, late 80s into the 90s, kind of Paisley Underground into, the big explosion of alternative rock. He was right there, primed for that age.
Tell your brother that only a couple days ago, I described The Cult to my wife as metal for chicks.
Yes. Yeah. That's not far off. My brother Dave had the big long hair and the leopard shirts and stuff. Whereas my other, so he was into that zone, and he was a good looking guy. He was a surfer. And then Sam was a little bit shorter, and he was hard of hearing, and he actually ended up passing when he was 25. But he was a very unique kind of person. Sam was his own person of his own making. And so he wore, Converse Chucks and skated in them. And, I have pictures of him up here in the studio, big Susie and the Banshees t-shirt, with chinos. And so he was so Sam was really my main musical influence. And so whatever he put on, I just took as gospel. So I was very much as a young kid. So they graduated in 88 from high school. So I was 7 years old, and my brother started a skateboard shop in a small town with my mom. My mom, took out a bank loan because my brother was, had learning disabilities and stuff, but he wanted to open up a skate shop. He couldn't really hack it in junior college, but my mom thought, him teaching him how to run a business would be good life skills for him. Right. And it was huge. So I kind of grew up in this skateboard shop from 88 to 91. And in that I just soaked up all of, Pal Peralta, Santa Monica Airlines, World Industries, all this kind of stuff that was, the music that came along that, a lot of Minutemen, a lot of Red Hot Chili Peppers, sort of stuff that was happening around that late 80s sort of alternative rock skate scene. So that's kind of, so I had a leg up on this stuff. So as a 10-year-old, by that point, getting deeper into the underground music scene I didn't jump in. My first love really was the band White Zombie. I felt like they were the first band that I liked that my brother didn't like, understandably. He probably had more taste than that, but I felt like they were kind of right, my sensibility as a 10-year-old or 9-year-old, 10-year-old. And then, like I said, Nirvana sort of set the template and reset all the chess pieces on the board.
Let's introduce the characters in today's episode. We got David Yow on vocals, Dwayne Dennison on guitar. Help me here. Is it David W.M. Sims?
I think so.
Okay, David W.M. Sims on bass. And then after the first record, Mac McNeely on drums, who actually becomes a key contributor. So Dwayne asked David to play bass on some songs he wanted to record. That's how it started. And then Yao suggested instead that he sing, and then have David play bass instead. They threw a name on the band, started rehearsing a bunch of times with a drum machine. Yao and Sims moved to Chicago in 88. Dennison followed the next year. As far as an influence, Nirvana, never stops talking about him. Bill Kelleher of Mastodon, Henry Rollins, Helmet, Lydia Lunch, as are so many bands who never really made it. They're constantly talked about as an influence.
Yeah.
Do you know at what point their live show became the thing that it became? Was it immediate?
I have no idea. I didn't see, the first time I saw them was at Lollapalooza in 1994, which I remember being underwhelmed, not by them, but just didn't feel, I knew the record so well, and it didn't really translate to a 3:00 in the afternoon, bright, sunny Irvine festival, band shell sort of vibe. I don't think it was not their fault, but I just think the environment was following Mighty Mighty Boss Tones and then going into Beck, I think, so it wasn't the way I wanted to see them, but that was the first time I saw them. And then the next year I saw them at the Roxy, which is a small club, maybe like 500 capacity club in Hollywood. And so that would have been 95, I think, maybe on the Down tour. But that was incredible. And that was the experience I was looking for. That was blew my hair off my head.
At the end of everything, after I had all my notes, I've got like 30 pages of notes here. After I had everything all done, I said, almost as an afterthought to myself, I should probably go back and see what their live show was like.
Oh, wow.
And then I was like, okay, I guess I got to spend some time here.
So you did the donut without the hole.
Exactly.
The live things. So I say Lash is where I started. And then from there, before getting Goat or Liar, I got Show, which again, it probably was the new thing that was coming out, as it came out in 94. Here I'm looking. And it's the cover, which you texted me earlier about how great their covers are. It's just David Yao's like hairy stomach,
Right.
But that record, or that CD, I should say, that live CD Show, I think is probably the one that's tattooed onto my brain the hardest, and where I know those versions of the songs, and it was recorded live at CBGB's. And again, I had to put this together after. I didn't know what CBGB's was at the time. I just liked this band, but they were played in between Don Caballero and the Damned. What a lineup that would have been, right?
Yeah. I saw a clip when I was doing research on this, a video of online of them performing in 1994. And Yao gets hit so fucking hard with a beer bottle that it shatters completely, like it explodes. He goes down, and literally within 3 minutes, he's not just back up, they're playing again.
Wow.
And, it's kind of amazing. And he was frequently performing completely naked. He lit himself on fire once in Switzerland. He jumped off the stage. Nobody caught him, and he knocked himself unconscious. This is Gigi Allen was probably the last guy who performed like that.
I know. I was just thinking too. Like I was like, I could see where the comparison. Who else do you compare that to? But like a Gigi Allen type. Right. However, I have to say that if that's all there was, it's a thin premise, right? I think Gigi Allen musically
Gigi Allen sucked.
That's not the interesting part. Like the music and the musicianship and the other three guys in the band were head and shoulders above so many other players at that time, and that core trio of them together, just was incendiary and explosive, and that would have been enough, I think, to become the band that they were. However, you put Yao's kind of visceral, body horror, antics on top of this insanely tight, melodic, taut, tension-filled, compositions, and there's where it goes to, legendary status. It goes from being a fucking tight, amazing, awesome band to just this legendary, what the fuck did I just experience kind of moment that, I'd say road rival something like the Stooges, right?
Yeah.
So I would go closer to Iggy than Gigi Allen, right? Where I think Iggy's thing of peanut butter and glass and cutting himself and this kind of body horror sort of performance art. I think Yao's more in that vein than sticking the microphone up his asshole and shooting drugs into his eye.
Right. I mean, because he had nothing to back up the whole thing with, but or Gigi, that is. So, okay, so moving into this thing, to get back to the run up. So Yao and Sims moved to Chicago in '88. Dennison follows the next year. Their first EP, which is called Pure, was recorded by Albini and released by Touch and Go in '89. It's the only record by the band that uses a drum machine, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think all Albini's projects, at that time, his bands had, drum machines. So I think that it would make sense.
Yeah.
They were sort of coming from that world.
Mac comes on board and plays the first live show with the band all together, July 1st, 1989. But most importantly, to move into phase one, Steve Albini recorded the first 4 albums, Head, Goat, Liar, and Down. Let's move into phase one, raw as fuck, 1989 to 1994. The first release is a single of the song Chrome, and man, do I love this song. It's so good. There's nothing like over elaborate about it. It kind of feels like Chuck Berry goes punk.
Yeah.
Nothing complicated, just good old basic mud-flecked rock and roll muckabout. Just fucking like Detroit MC5 by way of speedball basements of the collective unconscious.
Nicely said. That's poetic.
I would say this is the blueprint. They built on this and things got more elaborate, but I give this 4.5 stars.
I think I'm coming at it from a fan. So it's either fucking awesome or eh. Those are the two categories I have. So I mean, so Chrome goes into the fucking awesome category.
I'm sorry, I'm not moving forward till you give me some kind of star.
So okay, let's go 4 then, because there's more to come.
Then we're moving into the Pure EP, which I am not as impressed by. I
didn't love it. I didn't. Yeah. It was a weak spot for me.
Right. So let's talk about the background of this thing. It's their first big release. Only record by these guys with a drum machine.
So like I said, I got this on the CD where it was put with a Head and Pure was kind of tacked on the end. And yeah, I remember really liking the Head stuff. And then I was like, why does a CD get weird at the end?
Right.
It goes into these kinds of things. And it just didn't fit. I think, Mac is such a huge part of what I like and love this band. So so I'm putting these at like 2 on the 5 scale, right?
Yeah. Stars? Yeah. I give it 2 3/4. Let's break it down. Like to me, there's a couple of decent tracks at first, and then it kind of goes to shit. But they're poking around trying to find their things. So
right, yeah. I mean, you think it's nice from an archival sort of perspective. You can you get a sense of where does an album like Goat come from, or where does this band come from, and you kind of can see the sketches and sort of some of the early sort of scratchings.
People like to say seminal when it's not good. Right. So, all right. So the first song, Blockbuster, is actually not even sung by Yao. The mumbled spoken word stammerings of David Sims.
Can I give a note on David Sims?
Please.
I talked about moving into Hollywood in '99, and there was the bowling lane, their bowling alley where The Big Lebowski was filmed.
Yeah.
This was, it was on Santa Monica Boulevard. And I remember going there in high school. It was a place that was fun to go to, and with a very lax sort of carding policy. Mm-hmm. The bartenders didn't look at you. It didn't look at you for too long. It was a $2 Budweiser. Who gives a shit, right? So this was sort of the time. So I would go there in high school. And then once I moved to Hollywood, it was we'd go there all the time. And my roommate played in this band Chokebore at that time, who was kind of an AMREP band, kind of akin to Jesus Lizard in some ways, but I was going there with him. I was tagging along as a little brother, and so I mentioned after my brother passed, I was sort of adopted by some of his friends, as their kind of token little brother. So anyway, I got to go to the bowling alley and I met David Sims. We bowled together.
Oh,
and I remember being whatever, I was 18 and drinking beer and bowling with David Sims, and then at the end of the thing, I was the driver because everybody else was too drunk, and I probably shouldn't have been driving. But David Sims needed a ride. The rest of the party kind of needed a ride. I think they'd all taken cabs because they were visiting, and so I got to drive him to his hotel or apartment or wherever he was staying. And so I remember being very, very starstruck early on. I was like, "Wow, this is what living in Hollywood is like."
And you thought you'd made it. I mean, that was it. There was
bowling at the Big Lebowski alley with David Sims at 18, drinking $2 Budweisers. Epitome of I didn't think life could get any better than that.
You were much farther ahead than I was at that point.
Yeah, I felt I was aware of the rare air I was breathing. Okay, anyway, David Sims sings on Blockbuster.
Did you dig for clues about the recording of Blockbuster?
I was doing my best to play it cool. And I don't think so. I mean, whatever that was, I'm sure wasn't great. And like I said, probably, a couple two Budweiser buzz going on in my head. I was just doing the best to not shit my pants every time I, bowled a gutter ball. I'm just trying to look cool. Like, am I cool? Do I look cool? Am I still cool?
How can you help but not look cool at 18 years?
No. I was all acne and bad mustache.
Well, I will tell you, and I'm going to get back to this, but your video for Eraser, it perennially and eternally puts you in the cool category. I mean, that is one of the coolest pieces of film and audio I've ever.
Oh, cool.
But I'll definitely get back to that.
Okay.
I just watched it again yesterday. I showed it to my 3-year-old, and I was like, and it takes a lot for him to, as you're well aware, to have his attention pulled away from whatever he's watching. And he, at the second, whatever the talcum powder is thrown on you guys, the second that happened, he was all in.
How fun.
So Blockbuster, I think, is a decent song. Bloody Mary is the other good one that I like.
Bloody Mary's awesome. And they play that live. That goes on into their live set and goes on to other releases.
When you were talking about that, the imprint, the thumbprint that Albini brings, Bloody Mary sounds exactly like all of Albini's other work, especially the bass. It almost feels like they're imitating his template. It's a pretty cool song. Then the other 3, they're just kind of whatever. Rabid Pigs. It's a good song to punch out windows to, but that's about all I'd say. Starlit, bottom end stripped entirely bare off of the vocals, so it's just left as a like Iggy id growl, and then Happy Bunny goes fluff along. It's okay.
Experimental sort of thing, right?
Yeah. Nothing amazing. I like it. There was better to come. And I'm curious, does this count as pig fuck? And what is pig fuck?
I don't know. I've heard that term. I don't like it.
I don't either.
So I'm going to dismiss it as a genre of music. I'm not into that kind of shit.
I mean, I mainly am not into that title because I find pigs sexually repulsive.
I like pigs. Yeah, I'm a vegan, and I've gone to visit those sanctuaries where they rescue pigs. They're beautiful. They're great. But that as a term, I think is just feels derivative and kind of like, I don't know, you don't want to say new metal, you don't want to say industrial or something.
Is that Primus? Is that what?
No. I think it's I've seen it applied to bands that sound like Jesus Lizard, but have an industrial kind of metal-y sort of thing. I think it debases the art of what it is. You know what I mean? I think that doesn't fit right to me.
But it also probably points to the fact that most of the bands in this genre have no art to them.
That's entirely possible.
Because, Jesus Lizard, it's more surprising than anything else. If you start reading the lyrics, okay, these guys are actually doing something that belies the brutal one-note aggression of their sound.
Right. No, and I think that's where, I think Yao adds a lot more than just, there's the stage antics and everything, but the lyrics. And I just think their entire conviction, I think, is not this shock and awe horror show sort of thing. I think they have, musical composition talent, obviously, as well as, this kind of energetic thrust to them. So I think there's more there than just, it's not a single note sort of thing. There is this kind of multi-timbral type of experience that you could get from a band like this on record and live.
So these motherfuckers enter the 90s with a drummer, and it winds up being a really good thing for them, even though, bands like Big Black, they benefited from the drum machine. These guys, there was kind of a hole that Mac really filled.
Amen.
Head takes things in a direction of growth. Kicking off with One Evening, the guitar stabs, it's just so hard. It feels like it's covered in leprosy scabs.
I love Dwayne Dennison's playing because I think he does 7 or 8 or 30 different types of guitar playing. He's not a singular guitar player in that everything is rehashed and reheated sort of riffs or, one note kind of, he's not a I think another band that you can kind of put somewhere, it takes a little bit from PIL and that, sort of those sort of sparse, stripped down guitar parts. But then there's so much else. There's country, you can do a country twang thing. He does these beautiful sort of like lush, almost sort of avant-garde classical type of guitar playing. Then there's the, real sparse. I don't know. I think he's kind of everywhere. And I think it's a really beautiful play between David Sims and Dwayne, where they cover it's more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, a lot of the bands that follow this kind of a thing where you have, the music headed in one direction and then the singer laying something on top of it. There's a dissonance between what everyone's trying to do. It doesn't cohere. Mm-hmm. These guys, there's, what takes it to the next level is that somehow they've managed to tie the whole thing together so it has a singularity of purpose.
Yep. Well said.
SDBJ. So this begins the first streak of great songs in their history, I think, which I just imagine as South Dakota blowjob. It reminds me of Going Down to Florida by the Butthole Surfers. White indie insane person's twist on what blues would be like. It's a great piece of showmanship, and the vocal performance at the center is the star of the show. My Own Urine, great one. The first bunch of times I heard My Own Urine, I didn't even know that the song had officially started because it's kind of belched out from the end of SDBJ.
It kind of, it speaks to sort of the live show sort of setting where one song leads to the next, Yeah. You don't need an applause break after every song.
Conversely, I could easily slip this into a Halloween mix for my 3-year-old and it wouldn't sound out of place. They have the, punch you in the face kind of stuff. Then they have that lumbering, creepy, crawly thing that used to happen in the 90s.
Yeah.
That lumbering heaviosity is a well that they come back to, not with as much regularity as the aggressive ones, but on every record, there's at least a couple of those.
It kind of serves as a nice sort of reprieve from the pummeling.
Yeah. It's probably overemphasizing it to say it's texture, because who knows if they even would think of a word like that. But yeah, it just gives it some variety. If You Had Lips, what are your thoughts on this?
You know what? It's funny. I have to go back. I have to listen to these again. A lot of it starts to blend together. 7 versus 8 I love. Pastoral I love. Killer McCann I think is my favorite off the whole record. So it's like some of these I kind of just, I'll recognize if they come up, but I don't have them dialed in.
Usually there's like one reminder I'll throw down. So If You Had Lips is the one with the crazy mid-song breakdown that's followed by Hey Shit Mouth.
Yes, I'm pulling it up now in my headphones, on my other headphones.
Yeah.
I love this opening riff, right? Like I love that kind of, again, that's that creepy crawly sort of stuff. Like, what's funny is I think about, I love 80% of Black Flag, and I think where the process of weeding out goes, I know, some people worship that era of it, but I always feel like, this is more, if Greg wasn't so stoned, maybe he had a kind of more of an amphetamine sort of addiction,
right?
Or just let himself be the ADD wacko that he was without trying to self-medicate. Right. He might have come up with something like If You Had Lips.
This is my favorite song on the record.
This is a great song, yeah. But as soon as I hear that opening riff, it's great. I love it.
It really is. And I have a thing, I have this thing that I've always felt very, very passionately about, which is sort of a pet peeve, great solos that are accompanied and tagged and stamped by incredible lyrics. A great example, the one I always think of, is Little Johnny Jewel. Tom Verlaine saying, "And then I lost my senses." Before one of the most amazing guitar solos ever. It's a comment on the guitar solo. Hey Shit Mouth belongs in the band.
Oh man, what a just a tour de force too of Dwayne Dennison and all the things he does. Wow, yeah. It's a great song.
It's a great,
and that kind of simple, sort of the solos. Yeah, it builds. It builds and builds and builds, and the tautness and the tightness. Right, this is where I think where they're really, this is, I would say, by here they've defined what the Jesus Lizard is.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's just, it's not quite GOAT, but the template is much more cohesive here. 7 versus 8, I don't like as much as you. I think it's more of a standard issue screamo kind of a thing.
I mean, again, I'm so smacked in the head. I don't know if I can have a objective. Everything is very subjective to when I was a kid.
Just tell me I'm wrong.
I'm willing to hear the conversation and have the conversation about it. It's a little plodding, I guess I could say. Whereas some other stuff has the taut tension and the explosion, the tighten up and release kind of thing. This just kind of plods along. But this band, up until Down, in my mind, really can do no wrong. I'm not going to be great on. I think I would yeah, I won't get to the rating just yet of it, but it's, this is great. Yeah. So Pastoral, right? What do you think of Pastoral?
Pastoral is awesome because this reminds me of Codeine, who I love. And that early 90s, now I look back and it's so quaint because the world is such a piece of shit now. But in the early 90s, we were looking around trying to find things to be upset about. And, that indie, boo-hoo-hoo kind of a thing. This has that great descending guitar figure. It's a great song.
Yep.
This is my favorite song on the second side.
Okay, yeah. Do you have it on record, or how do you know the side breaks?
10 songs. It's song number 6. I'm guessing it's on the second.
Yeah. It's so funny. Yeah, for me, this is so much CD world. Yeah. I've later gone back and gotten the records on reissues or found them, but forever, these will be the things I had on the Discman or in the car.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's when it came out, and that's I can't even picture the album artwork on a CD. Or I'm sorry, on a record. It just belongs on a CD sleeve.
That's how I know it.
Yeah.
I can imagine. I can imagine it bigger, but why?
Yeah, exactly. Especially because literally, it's got to be the worst album artwork I have ever seen in my fucking life. It's like every single one is just awful.
I love it.
You do?
Yes. I would, if I had this, as a large format artwork, if I had the original piece, I would hang this on the wall.
I'm going to send you Jesus Lizard wallpaper.
Please.
Okay.
I'll put it up everywhere.
All right. Your wife.
She's never going to see it. She's. I would say up until obviously, down is my last hurrah for artwork and for music, but we'll get there.
Yeah. I'll just do all their major label stuff will be your wallpaper.
Oh, okay. There we go. Yeah. Then I may feel that kind of nausea.
Yeah. All right. So Wax Eater, good song, killer guitar work, good thing. The guitar work, especially the vibe of the song has a very Minutemen heavy stamp about it.
Oh yeah, I could hear that.
It reminded me of, but I like those two. Nothing great, I don't think. Titan Shiny's okay, and then Killer McCann is good too, but really I think Pastoral is the last great song on the album.
Oh man, Killer McCann, that's the one. I don't know, maybe just I think about it live, but no, Pastoral is beautiful. I mean, again, it speaks to the band, right? They do many things. I think Pastoral would be some band's best song ever, the best song ever written. But this happens to be an explosively propulsive live kinetic band, and so the song like Killer McCann, demonstrates that, and so you got these, it's almost like you have 2 or 3 bands going on. I was just going to say, like, going back to a Good Thing or Wax Eater, it's, I always think about the Texas part of it. I think when I learned later, I didn't know at the time when I was first hearing these things, I just thought Chicago, whatever that place was. But then going back and adding Austin into the mix, even though Dwayne's not from there, but there's, putting a little Texas in the stew of music, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, there's a Texas kind of rockabilly sort of thing that I wasn't aware of at that, like I say, at the time when I was first hearing this. But going and then looking at his work with Hank the Third and some other stuff he's done.
Right.
Okay, yeah, there's definitely a rockabilly.
Yeah, he played with him a while later, right?
I think so. Yes, after the breakup of Jesus Lizard.
Ultimately, what do you give this record?
So Head, I think, is going to be in that. Oh gosh, I mean, we can do 3/4, right? We can do
any iteration, any fraction.
So let's go 3 3/4. Do you listen to the Doughboys? Do you know this podcast?
No.
They review fast food chain restaurants, and they go by forks. So they can give it 5 forks, or you can do 5 forks 1 time, meaning it was 4 times, 3 times. This reminds me. This would be 3 3/4 for me, because or a 4. Let's just go to 4.
Okay, you're gonna do 4.
There's nothing that really takes it out of there. I just think they go on to do so much more. I'm trying to build in the headroom.
Yeah, that's the thing. I typically tend to rate on a curve.
But Jesus Lizard versus Motley Crue, you know what I mean? It's just,
right.
Motley Crue is into negative numbers, where this would be off the chain. You know what I mean? So it's on a curve. So within their own work.
Like Kickstart My Heart is a great song, though.
Yeah, I can't stand that band. But okay, yeah. So yeah, I go 4.
But then comes Goat.
Masterpiece, masterwork, right? And this is what they're going to forever be known for. This is the record.
Yeah, this is
not a bad song. the whole thing.
It's their platonic ideal. Oh, hi, I'm Dave Gebroe. I threw my career as a licensed hearing instrument specialist in the trash, sold my house, and moved to the East Coast with my wife and 5-year-old son in order to focus on making the ultimate weekly podcast for music obsessives thrive. But weekly wasn't enough for me, so I bumped it up to 4 shows a week. Becoming a subscriber to Discograffiti's Patreon gives you access to hundreds of exclusive episodes. As a 2-show per week private, you get the weekly show by and for our Patreon family, the Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound podcast. As a 3-show-a-week lieutenant, you'll get early release, ad-free, extended director's cuts of the main show. They're the shows as they were intended to be heard. Plus, you'll gain access to half the Patreon archive and the upcoming Beach Boys Behind the Mirror companion episodes, which will feature dozens of special guests from within the Beach Boys camp talking about and rating their music. But as a 4-show-per-week major, you'll be drowning in a flood of must-hear binge listening, because I'll be bombarding you with episodes about super cool bands that are too subterranean for free Fridays. It's like going to music college, but with a tuition that makes all kinds of sense. Plus, our entire Patreon archive is yours. Discograffiti's Top 10, our Buried Treasure show, Rock Cousteau, our Slag Off show, Queasy Listening, and the Private Press with Paul Major. And all that for the price of only a cup of coffee a week. Times are tough, you say? Fret not, because there's a $1 tier. Or you could just join as a basic member and buy episodes piecemeal from our Patreon shop. Don't risk feeling badly about yourself by not giving. Check out patreon.com/discograffiti to find the tier that's right for you. Once again, that's patreon.com/discograffiti. You want to take us through? Why don't you lead the charge here?
Then comes Dudley. I mean, it's a steamroller. It's funny. I had a friend in high school, and we would go through car washes and then try to find the perfect song. You know, those like automated car washes at a gas station.
Yeah.
And try to find the best song to time up with it. It was kind of like our Dark Side of the Moon, so the Laserian sort of experience, or like timing something up. And this song, Going Through a Car Wash, was the best, was like that was the best version we came up with, because you're sitting there and your car is slowly being pulled into this mawing machine of soap and suds and whips and then the big roller comes down and you're just being hit by everything, and like the sides are being slapped and the whole car is being consumed. I mean, it felt like the most perfect allegory for a song like that, is going through one of those automated car washes.
That's really funny and very ironic, because I intentionally did not take a shower today because it felt antithetical to the vibe.
You needed some musk, some odor, some of that David Yao hairy chest.
I mean, I've been up since 2:30 in the morning. I just walked 3 miles, but I was like, I gotta feel it. If he could be naked and throw himself and try to crowd surf without a crowd to catch him,
oh my God,
I can go one day without a shower.
You can do it, yeah. To the chagrin of everyone else that you inhabit your life with. So then comes down. I mean, what an opener, right? It's just right out there, just like it's a steamroller. Here's where we start, and we're just gonna grind you into the ground like a nub.
You call it steamroller. I have it in my notes as bulldozer. So
there you go. Same thing, right? Heavy machinery. And again, talking, the term like pig fucking or whatever this genre is. I mean, steamroller would be such a better term in my mind. You know what I mean? Or some kind of heavy machinery music or something. You know what I mean? That's such a better apt description. Yeah,
I was throwing down the gauntlet here. After the creeping dread of the intro of Then Comes Dudley, it feels like the way has been bulldozed clean for Yao to strike hot.
Oh my God, right? And then Mouth Breather comes in, that guitar riff that just starts it. We're off to the races. Forget it.
That very well could be their best song.
You know what? I wouldn't argue with that. Do you want to talk about the story now from the Slint documentary?
Yeah. Let's talk about
where this goes.
Yeah.
So the story is Britt Walford, the drummer for Slint, house sat at Steve Albini's house and lost the keys And so he would sneak in through the attic window, basically look like he was breaking into Albini's house for the week or a month or however long he lived there. And Albini's gets home and he goes into the studio to record with the Jesus Lizard to make this record Goat. And I guess he's retelling the story about Britt doing this to his house. And he says the line, "Don't get me wrong, he's a nice guy. I like him just fine, but he's a mouth breather."
Yeah.
And then David takes that, verbatim and puts it exactly into one of their best songs.
What you did leave out is that Britt had lost the keys to the front door. He came home drunk one night. He ripped the front door down, and instead of putting it back on the hinges and fixing it, he just nailed a bunch of 2x4s up to fix the door. and he broke the toilet, and it was raining piss into the basement where Steve's recording studio was set up. So that gives, the asshole nature of the sentence a little bit more context and just and a little bit more justifiable.
There you go. Yeah, don't get me wrong. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Like him just fine. But he's a mouth breather.
It is a perfect song. It really is. What chopped my fucking nuts off this time around is that, when Nub kicks in, I'm like, dude, this song is just as fucking good as Mouth Breather. It kind of is, and yet it has a completely different vibe to it. Let's talk about the Bottleneck slide work that's only, for whatever stupid reason, only showcased in a couple different tracks in their history.
That's what I'm saying. It goes to show, the many faces and the genius of Dwayne Dennison. I mean, the man is a guitar player, but above and beyond just a Swiss Army knife of skill and style and technique that just is really endless. And he shows it off and does it so well. And I almost think if he were to do this, 3 or 4 more times, he could get threadbare. But he has the perfect version of each of these little techniques and these styles, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah, Mouth Breather is very 90s. I say that with all due respect. And then Nub, it almost feels like it has almost an Allman Brothers boogie style classic rock ass shaking thing going on with it.
Yeah.
And that's gotta be
totally.
That's gotta be the Bottleneck slide.
Yeah, just that. Yeah, but you're right though. I mean, the drums are it's this tom kind of work, and really, I think this record is really where you sort of distill the Albini, Jesus Lizard, sound, that the room in the drums, right? You're hearing all this. There's all this tom work, but it's not lost. All the floor tom stuff. It's bouncy around you, but you hear it moving in the room. There's air around those drums. I mean, there's people could write a thesis about record engineering on this record and how those drums sound. I mean, this would be the drum sound to define drum sounds, right?
You just tell you he fucking put the mic in the right places.
And good for him. I'm sure that's what it, but I mean, not to take away, Mac's ability to tune a drum kit, I guess, and obviously to play it. But, as we'll go on to see, that it changes. It changes, when he's not there. So I give Mac a lot of that credit, but I got to give Albini some props.
He deserves a lot of credit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also lyrically good to know that this is about a kid who sticks his arm out the window of a bus and gets it cut off. So it's about his fucking phantom limb. Again, another brilliant lyrical conceit.
Right. And again, there speaks to the body horror and sort of the poetic and artistic nature. I think of, David Yao has motifs, right? Or things that, I think he's very aware, obviously, of his body and how he uses it. I mean, I would, Paul McCartney, not Paul McCartney, not the Beatle, but the deranged Southern California performance artist, Paul McCartney. Are you familiar with him?
I'm not.
I would imagine Yao was aware of him, or if not, it was kind of parallel thinking. Paul McCartney existed in the 70s and the 80s, 90s, kind of in vague obscurity, but he worked a lot with his body. Like he in similar kind of G.G. Allen type of thing of using, food and fecal matter and these sort of scenarios of almost childlike. He would use masks a lot, and one piece I remember there was a big retrospective at LACMA in the early 2000s. But one piece, he'd put shit on his face and rubbed it all across the four walls of a room. And sort of in the piece is the documentation, the video and still photos of the room, but also working a lot with like ketchup and mustard and kind of on his body and with like Pinocchio things. I think one of his more famous pieces is this life-size statue of Pinocchio with his genitalia, his like kind of penis as like a garden hose, flesh colored garden hose that sort of piles up and almost like a rattlesnake, or cobra like sort of coil beneath him. You know what I mean? So there's something in this kind of world, but the idea of about like missing your bodies and kind of the disgusting nature of our sort of viscera of the human form.
It's funny, all of these bands right around the same time, all of them in Albini's basement, they're all concerned and preoccupied with the same shit.
Yeah.
Pixies got the same thing, PJ Harvey, to a lesser extent, Nirvana. But they were all like, what is my body? What does this arm do? Things like that.
Where does the body end? Where does the self, this existential sort of like the tactile sort of investigation or dissection? Well, look at, and that speaks to the cover art, right? Too. Are you familiar?
Yeah, his body. It looks like flames, but it's his body. Is that what it is?
It's her. No, it's okay. They're saying it's a topless woman with a close-up image of nails projected onto her body.
Right.
Yeah. So it's I always thought it was like a mannequin sort of taken off, with like the skin taken off or something. But there you go. Yeah. Nails projected onto a woman's body. Right. So you sort of, they're very forthright. These aren't hidden messages.
What's the story? Is there a drug thing going on here? I mean,
I don't know.
I'm sure they did heroin, but I didn't come up with anything about drug abuse or who knows.
I've never seen any documentation of exactly what, if anyone went to rehab or had that type of thing. I mean, I would imagine, alcoholism probably played large parts in a lot of this work, but I don't know if it was uppers, downers, amphetamines, or I've never seen it documented or talked about.
I just assumed that these guys, that drugs played a part in their dissolution, but I really have no idea. Nothing leaped out to me about that.
There's not a song called Heroin like the Velvet Underground. That would give you the necessary, sort of like, oh, well, that's what they're into.
So Seasick. I love Seasick, man. Yeah. I love the barren arrangement. I love the simplicity of the lyrical approach, that hook of just screaming, I can't swim over and over again. Mm-hmm. This is a masterpiece.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, this is where you get into the guts and the meat and the good stuff of just this band. Right. You know what I mean? And lyrics that juice that just kind of capture you and you're locked in and it really feels like four pieces moving as one, right? This is really the definition of a band firing on all cylinders. If anyone wanted to know what that sounded like, a band that's all in the same boat, paddling in the same direction together.
Literally, I mean, not literally in a boat, but all literally playing at one time when that used to happen. So, Monkey Trick, don't know if you knew this.
Ooh, Irish Game.
What a great song, man. Yeah. The lumbering, creeping dread kind of a thing that they do. This is probably the best of those that they ever did. It's Yao's favorite song that they ever did.
Oh, wow. It's amazing. Like I said, this is what really got me into them on Lash. I think that was maybe the EP that came out after this. That's where I heard that first. And that was the song that I just was like, it carved a new pathway in my brain. I had no experience of how to classify music like this until I heard that. And then I said, yes, now there is a hole. I want to fill it with things that check all these boxes. Right.
And just little things that you grab onto, like little buoys that you can kind of float with, like the line body parts all over this town. They really stamp an imprimatur on the feel and the vibe of this thing.
Yeah. And it goes up that kind of that sort of bridge, you know what I mean? It's not quite a chorus, but it's like plodding along and then it goes high. But yeah, it's that tension release sort of thing. I think they just did so well. And I think, maybe you'd put a band like Fugazi, who we haven't really talked about. We talked about Ian MacKay's kind of Discord sort of thing, but the musical sort of style of Fugazi, I think kind of has some play or some part of this sort of early 90s or mid 90s, the tension release, build up and release kind of thing. How long can you hold on that part? I mean, being in a band, being a teenager and trying to being influenced by these types of bands, no, we're going to play this thing 16 times. Don't play that part twice or 4 times. We're going to 32 times. And then it goes big. Okay.
Yeah. It's an art to know how much of, a good hook or a good section to milk.
Yeah.
On the one side of things, you have Robert Pollard, who gives you 3 seconds of the great hook and never repeats it.
Yeah.
And then you get somebody else who's, knows what they have. And so by the time you're done listening to the track once, you're sick of it.
Right. Yeah. Too much. I think it's a track like Monkey Trick, definitely is that, like, you're feeling it out. I'm sure I've had many experiences, post listening to this record and kind of, jamming something out, like, no, just hold on, let's just hang it longer, and then,
right.
And you got to go back and count, how many times did I play that part? Did I play it this many times? I don't even know. And, you tighten it up or go longer. And then the tension and the heightening of it, like, where does it get bigger? But just what a great, I think, line from, not being necessarily in 4/4 time, or not being, this like verse chorus kind of thing that obviously Kurt Cobain hated so much and did so well.
Right,
I can see where, a band like Jesus Lizard and songs like Monkey Trick, they're not writing pop songs. They're writing these other kind of song forms, ideas.
Yeah.
You could map onto those things, but they just feel so alien to that idea of something to be played on the radio, or like, Sugar Sugar or something.
I love Sugar Sugar, by the way.
Right. It's a pop song, but it's not with, two people doing two different things for two different reasons.
Right. So do you read music?
No.
Okay. Carpus is a cool song. Really, I think Carpus and Rodeo in Joliet are the only two that are not as good as the rest.
It's funny. Yeah. I mean, I think, sometimes I would play this, this record for other people or for friends and stuff. And sometimes I would get it sounds like spy music, you know what I mean? And I think a song Carpus is if they were to have rebooted, dun, 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 dun,
oh yeah, that's All right,
where are we at? Southmouth.
Love Southmouth. I feel like if they streamlined their approach, if they were interested in a broader level of success without selling themselves out, they could have gone down this path. And I think more people would be talking about them today, because these guys, they've been kind of erased a little bit from history.
Have they?
I mean, I don't think anyone really knows about these guys. If you look on social media, there's no Jesus Lizard official account. There's like a big hole.
How strange, right? Like, I guess that's just keeping up with the formats,
right,
of our platform shiftings of things. Like, yeah, I mean, but Captain Beefheart doesn't have a social media account. And he exists in culture, doesn't he? In some way.
Yeah. But I mean, but you look at, for example, Nirvana. There's I don't even know how many people on Instagram. It seems like the only thing they do is collate and publish found pictures of Kurt Cobain.
Right. Well, I think it has to be. Kurt Cobain looked like Brad Pitt.
Right.
Kurt Cobain was a poster boy, and but with phenomenally good-looking cheekbones and a horrible drug habit that that caused him to only weigh 98 pounds. And
he ticks off
like a model. Yeah, and I think David Yao's hatchet-shaped face was never going to allow him to. He's not the person that 14-year-old girls are going to put posters up on their wall of it.
And then most importantly, Randy, he lived.
Right. There you go.
He lived. So
So therefore the punishment is he does not get to be on social media. I think in some ways, clearly the winners in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting. It's a funny one. I feel like the hammer has not come down on the final estimation of the band, right? I think they are going to be I don't know. To me, they're such a quintessential, hugely influential band that I have to have faith that I'm not the only one out there. And in these reunion shows, I've been to both the last two reunion runs they did, and they were packed.
Was it comparable to the experience you'd had when you were much younger?
No, because I'm not that age and they're not that age. They were, but I would say, it sounded like. It sounded like the record. No, but I mean, what he did do was, have you seen the footage of this from this last reunion they did? It was 4 years ago, 2 years ago, pre-pandemic. So the band starts and Yao comes out in a white poodle mask and a white bathrobe. And it's gorgeous. And again, this is performance art, right? I mean, this is clearly a genius guy with visuals and understanding of performance in his body and what it does and what it looks like. And walks out, and it's almost this like Jodorowsky film or something, this like poodle, this like, poodle priest walking out to the front of the stage on all white. And then he sticks his hands into this large white bucket and pulls out this black powder, almost like, like gunpowder or some kind of graphite, just finely, almost like liquid. And proceeds to like wash his hands in it as the band's playing, and then bathes his face in it. So now this all white poodle mask and black and white, bleached white stuff just is now covered in this like black, almost blood like type of thing. He's like bathing himself in this, and then that's the end of the first song. Right? And then the mask comes, the poodle mask comes off, and he has a bald head where he looks like Elmer Fudd. He has a bald cap on. And again, and now he's singing, and the slowly the now black robe comes off, and he's shirtless in Levi's and cowboy boots, and with this Elmer Fudd head on, and again continues to sing, and the black goo and liquid powdery goo stuff, it gets everywhere, and it's just enriching. You know what I mean? Now here we are, 15 minutes, 20 minutes into this thing, I'm just like, I've not taken my eyes off of him for 1 second. For this entire thing going on, like what the fuck is happening? This is not what I thought it was. This isn't what I was looking for. This was completely surprising, original, shocking, but without crossing lines into, emulating himself, setting himself on fire, but it's still just as shocking and scary and disturbing and weird and just
I love
unexpected.
The word enriching that you just used. I mean, as far as it applies to this, is an interesting word. What is the most enriching show you've ever seen?
I mean, Jesus Lizard is up there. I think the Boredoms I saw, and was in a moment of just kind of like that laughing, crying, smiling sort of moment. And again, it's a very visceral kind of band that builds on, drones and repetition, in a krautrock sort of way. And just, I remember just being like, this, I don't know what this is, and just kind of being, my mind is almost shutting off and just like stop thinking and just kind of experiencing it.
What era of the band did you see them for?
The Boredoms. This was like 2009. So
is that
later,
like super AE?
I don't know. I'm not even a huge fan of their records. I have I had some, but it was just a weird live experience.
I'd say for me, there's relative merits to all kinds of different shows, but as far as pure stripped back rock and roll of the kind that we're talking about today, it would be Sleater Kinney for the Dig Me Out tour.
Ooh, that was great. I did see him on that. That was awesome.
Unreal. It was unreal. What we're at is Lady Shoes. So let me ask you pointedly, have you know the lyrics, right?
Yes. I don't know anybody, but it's not coming to mind. Yeah, exactly.
This is his version of the aristocrat.
Right. Okay.
So just to give a quick version of it, there's a girl playing.
Right. Yeah, and then someone comes in, then the doctor comes in.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Great song. Rodeo in Joliet, graded on a bell curve. I'm just bummed that this last song wasn't more of a fist in the face.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I think it goes on, I think there's a better version of this type of riff. I almost think like Art of Self-Defense or something else, or there's other songs where they do this vibe better.
Right,
it does kind of whimper out, but so much of it's so good, right? I mean, much.
I mean, look, that's the only thing I have to say.
Yeah, 1 out of 10 songs that doesn't just completely knock your teeth in.
Yeah,
and they put it at the end. They were smart enough to do that. At least they didn't bury it, in the middle. They knew kind of like, that's the last one.
I give this 4 3/4.
Oh, I mean, this is a 5 for me. Of Jesus Lizard records, this is the height, obvious. And I think, I'm not the only one to say this. I think
no.
I think Goat is the high point. It's the thing that will be, if you were to tell somebody like, oh, what does that band sound like? You would say, put on Goat, listen to that, and you get a fairly comprehensive snapshot of what they do. And then, obviously there's iterations and there's nuances and creaks and paths you can take to further expand on their with who they are, but this is the primer.
This is one of those, interesting cases where it's like they have this one thing that they do. And so they, for years were whittling and came up with the perfect iteration of it. So while there's other albums that are great, if you only had this record, you would be doing okay.
Absolutely.
1992, Liar. So this is their third album, again on Touch and Go, considered to be among their best records. It's not the craziest or most fucked up album they ever made, but it's very consistent. Let's start with Boilermaker, just like they did.
Ooh, so good, right? Again, classic, the playlists, and, would go on to live in the live sets. I've never seen them live where they didn't play this song. Same with Here Comes Dudley. I mean, really knowing how to start off a song or how to start off a record, right? Where this is where Goat starts with like the steamroller thing. This is we're off and running. We're at a full sprint.
This kind of feels like a light version, like with some of the edge sanded off. Like in other words, it's a good solid rock song instead of feeling like something more dangerous than that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just more, it's only rock and roll than Exile on Main Street.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, I don't think it doesn't have the smoke and the sleaze yet.
Yeah.
That's to come. But I guess, and I would have to imagine, I don't know, because I don't know, I didn't look up what their touring schedules were, but this sounds like a band who has not been off the road for more than 2 days. It sounds like a band who's just touring nonstop.
Right. You mean in terms of how tight they are?
Yeah, and just how confident they are, and how where they put the songs. I mean, the records like set like a live set list. You know what I mean? It's like it mimics this kind of thing. Like they know what they do, and they know what they do well, and how they pace it out, and what goes into where. You know what I mean? It just feels like maybe it's the feeling you experience as being a band on the tour on the road, but tour tight is a thing. And and the hope is you always want to go into a recording situation, and like where you can forget the song, you just play it without thinking it.
Right.
And this almost sounds like what they're doing. It's all muscle memory at this point. There's no brain. It's just we press play and let's go. The band is going to perform for 45 minutes without stopping or taking a breath. Yeah. The
second song, I think, is one of their absolute all-time great songs. I mean, very much a contender for their absolute best. Gladiator is so fucking shredded that the guitars actually, to me, sound like downed power lines shooting out sparks.
Oh, what a great way to put it. Yep. And just talk about that bass, right? That's the bass. That's the Jesus Lizard. That's the Albini bass drums. If you needed like an example of that, the first 10 seconds of what that's doing. It's great.
And I mean, like, in referencing Eraser before, that's again like a similar kind of a thing where it's like you're just trying to like hang on for dear life. Because even Eraser is a very interesting structure. There's no chorus, right?
Right. Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
It's like several iterations of an intro and then a bunch of verses and then it's done, right?
Yeah. I think we're definitely at that point of where we were not aware of writing songs and what we were doing. I think it was we kind of just collect all the sounds that sound good together and then stop when it's over.
But that's where your mastery of tension and release, to me, sets you completely apart from a band like this, who are just, feel possibly uncomfortable in their bodies and uncomfortable on the planet in a way that doesn't allow for texture. It only allows for thrashing around, trying to make as big of a commotion as is possible.
That's interesting. You said, I think from a constructionist sort of point of view, right? Like this is the steel girder irons of a building. Like we don't need walls. We don't need windows. We just need the pieces we need to survive, right? Yeah.
And that's, so when you talk about tension and release, Eraser is almost unbearably filled with that because, and it's really, really beautifully reflected back in the video. That tension, which is never released until later in the song, is mirrored by you guys constantly running up to that backyard stage to play over and over and over again. So you're not actually quite playing, you're almost playing the whole way through.
Oh man, well it's too kind. I don't know if I have an objective opinion on any of that stuff, or even to include it next to or inside of a Jesus Lizard podcast reflection. I feel dwarfed by the subject matter.
Not at all. No. Eraser Objectively speaking, which is the only kind of speaking we do here, is as good of a rock song as has ever been recorded.
Oh, I can't agree with you, but I can appreciate that. I can be empathetic to what you've said. But thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. And I'm not dwelling on the past with you guys. I have every fucking thing you guys.
Oh no, thanks. I'm so into talking about Jesus Lizard. I feel too humble to even talk about myself.
Nah.
Okay. So art of self-defense.
Yeah, art of self-defense. Yeah. Let's first talk about the line, a diminutive figure in a filthy loincloth is en route to your house just to knock you off. I mean, that's so fucking weird, man. This song is brutally intense.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think, again, I think it just speaks to his, again, the many faces of David Yow and sort of what he talks about. We talked to, Goat with kind of the body horror stuff. Right. This is almost like an Elmer Leonard noir, sort of character.
This is an amazing song. Slave Ship is a really cool, I don't really love it musically as much, but I love the idea that this is a sort of astoundingly brutal version of Randy Newman's Sail Away.
That's funny. I think it swings in a way that I think is funny. It almost reminds you like being in the bottom of a ship or something.
Yeah.
Right. There's a very kind of swinging sort of thing, which again, I think it speaks to a little bit of the cowpunk, sort of thing they do with real reverby, twangy guitars, but plodding bass and drums.
I like the plotting Jesus Lizard, but not nearly as much as the other kind of Jesus Lizard. I like the release, not the tension from these guys.
Right. Well, again, which brings you to Puss.
Right.
Again, it's all release. Give me something to stop the bleeding.
And that's what I wrote next to it is perfect song. This was the split single with Nirvana.
Oh, right. Yes. I have this. I inherited this from my older brother.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. With the poodles. And again, the artwork on this one is cats' heads on a Renaissance type of classical painting. And then that cover is, again, that's the poodle head. Maybe that's what was referencing. Puss and Oh, the Guilt. Right.
That's right. We'll get to that after this.
Okay. Gotcha.
The B-side.
Great. Yes.
The B-side after Puss, I believe it's a Dick's cover, right?
Dick's cover, yeah. I have that one. That's a fucked up cover too.
Yeah, it is. The second half of Liar, I'm not as impressed by. I like Rope, but then on that second side, you got Whirl, Perk, and Zachariah, which are just, I think, decent without being great.
Rope is that kind of, again, cowpunk sort of thing, and I can imagine it's a live band. The song like this goes off, right? You can play this live, and everybody loses their shit.
Right.
Perk is, kind of this languid, again, I think very country kind of thing. It's funny thinking about it.
These are just kind of less.
Zachariah is like pastoral.
Mm-hmm.
I think Zachariah is kind of pastoral, right? You can almost make a playlist of their long spread out songs.
Similar thing, but Pastoral is a much better song.
Totally. Yeah, I think you're right. Dance Naked Ladies, though.
That's one of their best songs.
Yep.
That is,
So they learned from the Goat, right? Don't put the weak one at the end.
Exactly. Where Goat was fast and furious, this one's kind of up and down and all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
I love just about every other song. And the Skipperoos, they're not insultingly bad or anything. They're just kind of failed stylistic semi-deviations.
To me, this feels so live. I could see this is how you would put a live set together. You want some dynamics in there, and then you want songs that are just going to get people up and moving, even if they're not the thing you need to document for posterity's sake for the rest of your career. But that's going to fill 4 minutes in a set, and everyone's going to be sweaty and dead, and then you can go into your longer piece after that. It's like you want to just ratchet them up.
Yeah. This one overall, I give it 3.5.
Oh yeah. So okay, I did 5 for Goat. I'm going to put Liar at 4.5.
4.5.
Yeah.
Oh, you definitely like this one better.
Because I mean, there's so many great classic songs that would go on to kind of be the staple of who they are as a band. The Boilermaker, Gladiator, Art of Self Defense, Dancing Naked Ladies. I think Puss, even. I don't know. I think there's some great stuff in there.
We're on the same page, but I believe that you're more forgiving because every single song you just mentioned, except for Dancing Naked Ladies, was on side one.
Right.
It runs out of steam a little bit.
But I think I'm still riding the high off a go, and I also have the age I was at when I heard this. You know, I think I give him a wide berth.
You would be backstabbing the 11-year-old Randy Randall.
I couldn't put. I can't really see it. So I think really Goat, Liar, Down are the sweetest spots, and then I kind of retroactively put Head in there too because I didn't know it as well.
Right.
I was bad with that. But those 4 records, I mean, this is where we're in the sweet spot. So where Goat, I think, just kicks it off, Liar steps down, and then Down, I think, almost comes back. I don't know. We'll get to that spot.
And here's where they fly closest to the sun. The Guilt single, the split single, released February 15th, 1993.
Is this the height of Nirvana? It has to be, right? This is like...
Nevermind came out in September 91, I think.
But 92 belonged to Nirvana. 92 was the whole year of them, right? They couldn't do... That was where... That comes out September, but doesn't really catch on. It was the world where it wasn't instantaneous the week of. I don't think Nevermind really took off till Christmas buying season. I imagine 1 million people bought that kids got that, or their parents got that for them for Christmas presents.
Yeah, and we're well in by this point because we're talking about mid-February 93. Somehow the Matrix was jammed because this band got to breathe superstar air for a little bit. It was recorded February 13th, 93. So
in utero. Okay, and this comes out February 15th, 93.
That's correct. So we're right in it with In Utero.
They don't want to be the biggest band in the world. They want to have integrity in some ways, but they work with Albini. They do a split with Jesus Lizard. They're trying their best to nail their feet to something of solid ground. Yeah. And it just won't, and whatever forces at play in their world just won't allow them to ever feel like they're human beings. They have to be gods.
The interesting thing about the Jesus Lizard is that they're so painfully, irreducibly not of that stripe when they start consorting with major label types and trying to find a middle ground. It so doesn't work. I mean,
oil and water, right?
Yeah.
But I could have seen Jesus Lizard on, David Letterman or whatever, the MTV sort of world. I think there was enough there. There was enough meat on the bone, but I guess, I don't know. I think the juggernaut of that major label world was so like blotting out the sun. For anything new or interesting to happen. I just don't think, I think it's interesting because even, same could be said with a band like the Melvins or something like the post-Nirvana sort of like indie gold rush sort of thing. It was not really, there was no room for interesting things. They were all looking for the next one-hit wonders, a la whatever Green Day or something, which really had nothing to do with the Nirvana, but it just happens to come like who are the best looking kids we can pimp out and sort of put them on the cover of magazines and make them the Donny Osmonds of the 90s, right? It's more how I look at it. They weren't looking for interesting things. They were looking for good-looking kids with baggy or with ripped jeans and something.
But these were not good-looking kids.
No, they weren't, right? So I forget. I
mean, Mac was like vaguely dreamboaty, but they're not known for that kind of shit.
It wasn't that thing. And even like you look like a band like a Trent Reznor, gorgeous man, right? I mean, he's like, these are style icons. I think if anything, the 90s was hobbled by good-looking rock stars. And which I'm sure is always the case of pop music and big things, but just you look at all of the music that really crossed over. I think, I don't know why. Maybe it's just never really mentioned. I think people don't really. It's seemed gauche or passe to talk about this sort of stuff. But the popular band like Tom York again. This kind of always got a lazy eye, but the man's a tiny waif of he looks like a model. These are all model. Lead frontman, Chris Cornell, whatever, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess they were not allowed to taste the popular media outlets due to,
Look, I honestly believe, and I've thought this for years, that the record companies in boardrooms, that we never get to see into, that every now and then they decide, okay, this thing, this entity, this Jesus lizard, they're doing this thing that operates outside the boundaries of what we decide is allowable. So let's see if we can infiltrate some rot into the proceedings and break them down and fuck them up. I honestly believe that this is a conscious thing.
Right. Well, then you get into like your MK Ultra sort of, so that's a governmental sort of program. But you think that even in a capitalist sort of way of anything of interest in freewheeling dynamics that exists and is able to make money outside of their world is, I mean, I'm sure there was some version of that, right? What is it? The Powell doctrine that, the capitalism must be defended at all costs.
Yeah.
There in no way can capitalism be attacked, and it's the government's responsibility to defend capitalism. And that, the same sort of thing that, like, if anything that seems to be popular that is not under our own control. I mean, that would be interesting. I'm sure there's a book written about it, but even, the sense of like MP3s in essence torpedo, like they almost shot themselves in the foot with that. And then to revive it into streaming where now the mechanics are back in balance when major labels are able to profit, get the lion's share.
There's a great line in an unreleased Bob Dylan song called "Farewell, Angelina." What cannot be imitated perfectly must die, and that's what I think that Jesus. I mean, obviously there had been punk bands before this. There had been, but these guys had something inviolable to them. It's like if there was no corrosion that had seeped into it, these guys could have potentially kept going, ad infinitum.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And I think this is that point, right, where you sort of introduce the idea of now that the taste of Nirvana and that world, and that everyone rushes into them, right. And wants a piece of what they have. There's the Lollapalooza, there's the Capitol Records.
We're not quite there.
No, but I think this is the chink in the armor, right? Or this is the crack, the crack that will become the chasm, that will become the Grand Canyon. It starts here. There's a seed.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, okay, what's next?
There's a couple of releases that occurred before we have to contend with that. So in 1993, the Lash EP came out.
Okay, we're not going to talk Wheelchair Epidemic or Gladiator.
That came out in between Liar and Lash. Down. Wheelchair Epidemic then was a standalone single.
Yeah, and the cover art's horrible. It's like somebody having sex with like a wheelchair patient with like a dunce cap on. Mm-hmm. It's very disturbing.
So, did you have this single when it came out?
Again, this was something I inherited from my brother after my brother passed. I got his records and a guitar and stuff. So I had this in there, and again, very kind of like challenging, artwork and stuff. But I put it on, but it's a great dun. They really make it sound like a Jesus Lizard song. The original is not quite as menacing and tension filled. They added their stamp to it.
What do you give it?
Wheelchair Epidemic. I mean, again, what's it backed with? I'm trying to see what is it.
I'm actually not sure. Horrifyingly enough, I didn't rate this one.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm giving it a 5. Great band.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 2 3/4, and I'll let you know if I'm right or wrong.
Okay. To be updated.
All right. The Lash EP in 1993.
Oh, right. Okay. So this is where I come in real time, right? This is where young Randy Randall first crosses over with the Lash EP.
This one kind of has Stopgap written all the fuck over it to me.
Right. I mean, this is a band who's probably on tour all the time and can't, and there's a demand for more material.
It's kind of like 2 mediocre, watered down new studio tracks and then a smattering of live leftovers.
Yeah, right. But again, this is in the wake of that Nirvana single. It's just they couldn't put enough product out there. Everything's probably selling, so just put new stuff.
The 2 new songs, I don't really love either of them. Glamorous and Deaf as a Bat.
Come on, Glamorous, that opening riff is great with that drums. I always love when anybody does a rim shot on a drum. That's where like the drumstick is like, just hitting the rim shot, and because I think that's the Glamorous. I love that, iconic, and that also comes into their live record. So the Glamorous I love. Deaf as a Bat is kind of another rockabilly kind of barn burner. Not my favorite.
Yeah, that one kind of feels Crampsy to me.
But Killer McCann live is great. Lady Shoes live, Bloody Mary live, Monkey Trick live. Like I said, Monkey Trick live, the last track on this thing, is my first sort of blush with the band. This is 5 out of 5 for me. I respecting my own personal biography with the band. Yeah. This is great. And that cover too. Again, that is a giant piece of art. If that existed 8 feet by 8 feet, I would have it hanging on my wall. I would pay thousands of dollars.
That's awesome.
Such a thing. Yeah, no, I love that.
And it's funny because, you know, I'm hearing it as a 50-year-old man.
Yeah, yes.
It's totally passing over me. I give it 2.25 stars.
Okay. So show. Let's get back to this. Okay.
Yeah.
Don Cab, The Damned, Jesus Lizard in between, add CBGBs. I mean, really legendary. All those things were lost on me at the time because I wasn't aware of all that cool stuff. Yeah, really love this record. What's your take on it from hearing it cold?
It's a good live record. It didn't necessarily leap out to me like it was an exceptional live record, but certainly a solid representation of the racket they'd been making during the decade.
I have to say, honestly, for me personally, this is probably the yardstick. I know I said GOAT was. Yeah. I think so many of these songs come from GOAT, but I would say this is the representation that probably the record I've listened to the most. And if I want to go back to Jesus Lizard, this is where I would go first. And I know I'm an oddball for that. You know, the GOAT, it would be the go-to thing of most people. But for whatever reason, I think it was, again, the biography of my life at the time. This was really, it hit me so hard. And it's funny because there's this record and Velvet Underground with Lou Reed, 1969, that live compilation from Dallas and San Francisco. Yeah. I love that record more than any other Velvet Underground record.
But that I understand.
Yeah.
To me, that's not strange. First of all, that version of What Goes On is it's the best version that exists of that song.
Yeah.
And then there's this really interesting sort of cornpone country take on I'm Waiting for the Man, which is fucking amazing. And he's talking about sports as a...
Oh, yes. Yeah, I don't know about... We saw your Dallas Cowboys down there.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Might as well give them a chance to win or something. All right, here we go.
That's a phenomenal live album.
Again, yeah, all the stuff, all the banter that he says in the beginning, like, all right, you guys got to go to work in the morning? Or can we do a short set, or we're going to stretch out real long? You're like, okay, pull out whatever makes you, relax, whatever helps you, pass the time in this world. Yeah. Here we go. And they do that one side of Heroin, Ocean, and Pale Blue Eyes. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Phenomenal. 3 songs taking up, whatever that is, 15, 20 minutes.
That's incredible. Out. It's way better than Max's Kansas City that I understand completely. This one, I only heard it once.
Got it.
I didn't go back and re-listen. But ultimately, I think if I was, nothing would supersede GOAT as far as a platonic ideal for me.
Sure. Yeah. But I think, this was just kind of where I hit. And I think I know a lot of these songs from this. And I think that then, and then just feeling I have to see them live. I have to see them live. And then seeing them at the Roxy there in 95 definitely fulfilled that. And then in the subsequent 2 reunion tours that I saw them, it just, I think it just puts me at this moment because I have these songs living live in my head and the fun of it all.
I really hope I get to see them, dude. I'm so late to the party.
Yeah, it was funny. I'm probably not, probably speaking out of school and who knows what's worth anything to say. But when I was at that Lance Bangs thing, I was talking with Watt because they'd practiced at Watt's pad, with Britt and Paho for all the stuff they did. And he mentioned, and Watt was talking about, he's like, oh yeah. And I was like, what's David doing here? I was like, oh, he's going to sing on a song. Like, okay, that's odd. And then and he's like, oh yeah, he's been in Nashville playing with Dwayne. I think they're working on a new Jesus Lizard record. And I was like, whoa. And then as I was talking to David, I was like, oh, Watt mentioned new music. He's like, well, I wouldn't call it that. I don't know. I wouldn't get too excited. And I was like, okay, I want to hold my breath. But what an insight. I mean, that would be huge.
That would be. All right. So 1994 Down.
Yes.
So this is a turning point. It's their last album for Touch and Go. And the last to be produced by Steve Albini.
And the last with Mac also on it, right?
Last on? I believe so. I believe you're right.
Yeah.
So things were about to change irretrievably for these guys. So another piece of shit album cover.
That dog. I mean, just think about it, right? He's falling. He's not going to make it. I think the band knew in some ways too that this was the breaking point. I think they could have broken up here and this would have been the end of, and you know what I mean? This is the cherry on top of an amazing career.
I'm glad they didn't break up, but this one is extremely up and down for me. What's your thoughts in general about Down?
So again, I talk about, this is where I saw them live. I feel like I was drifting on fumes a little bit, you know what I mean? But they played the songs I knew, so I was digging that. And so I kind of, loop in these songs into that kind of like, hey, those were cool too. They played those. Right. Fly on the Wall, it was fun. The lyrics aren't particularly.
Yeah, Fly on the Wall sounds muted and Yow sounds distracted to me.
Yeah. Countless Backs of Sad Losers.
Well, let's hold up for Mistletoe, because
Mistletoe.
Mistletoe is just about the only song I love on the first side.
Okay, yeah.
Or actually, Mistletoe and Destroy Before a Reading.
Yeah, it almost has like a Dead Kennedys kind of thing, right? I guess we haven't really talked about Dead Kennedys in reference to that sort of twangy cowboy sort of stuff. I think that's got to be part of the equation, or at least people could hear that.
I'm going to put the Geiger penis landscape poster in with your wallpaper.
Perfect. I'll take it. But yeah, Mistletoe's good. Again, bouncy kind of thing. But again, right, it's like they're drifting a little bit where they had such definitive, confident statements of records with Goat and Liar.
I think they're drifting. Yeah. I mean, because look, 3 songs in a row that were, for me, a miss. Countless Backs of Sad Losers, Queen for a Day, and The Associate. I honestly don't care. What was going on here, do you think, or don't you know?
The Associates.
Because I don't know. As far as what they were distracted by, what were they up against at this point? It just seems like the music is more of an afterthought now.
Well, I have to imagine, right? It's the glow of the intense spotlight, right? Of what could be happening, and the pressure to go get the money, go get the thing. You have the world on an oyster. The world's on a plate being offered up in front of you. Everything except music, right? Everything else is all the treaties, all the hard work and floors slept on, and bounced checks and everything, I mean, imagine all the hardship of the life led, and being a post-punk genius is very unsung, and here they're about to taste something, or they have the opportunity, right? It's in front of them. I mean, and so I imagine they're all pulled and distracted, and they're all thinking different things. I would have to imagine, right? This is they're on the precipice of doing something that they think could be great, and maybe some of them know that it's not great or that it won't work. But how do you turn it down, or how do you say no to all the riches in the world?
Yeah, it's like the same reason why a lot of people have kids is because they lead unexamined lives, and not everybody should be having fucking kids.
Sure, I think a lot less are having them than they used to. Thank God.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think I don't know. You obviously you don't. There was a book called Book. We haven't even gotten to the one title, the theory of their one titles for records and things. Yeah. But their book titled Book came out I don't know 3 or 4 years ago, and it had a little foreword, I think, from each band member. Kind of it was obviously post breakup and then post reunion, and this is captures a lot of photos. It's the great coffee table book if you're the fan that I am, or that kind of a fan that you'd want to have. You always wanted to have a coffee table book like this to see more, because there wasn't always a lot of stuff. Like I said, there weren't tons of interviews or photo spreads like we talked about, with like Nirvana or these good looking bands. So they did their own book. They mentioned in the foreword, I think it's Dwayne Dennison, and that he sort of saw, in terms of their major label, it speaks more to the next record, to Blue, but there was, but I think it's coming in here that they could have just broken up, or they could have taken this chance. And I think at that point, the business side sort of kicked in a little bit. I don't know if they had a manager, or I think Dwayne Dennison's wife was kind of helping him out. I think she had some kind of law degree or some kind of official, stature in society. And I think advised them to just like, guys, you've worked your whole life. You've done all this stuff. You have an opportunity. Now everybody can go buy houses. You can go don't end now just for the mechanics of living life as an adult. You guys have done this whole your entire life. You're probably getting into their 40s here, and whatever, if the wells run dry, it doesn't matter. These people are going to pay you all this money. Why turn it down just for your own, pay off your car, pay off whatever it is you got to pay off. I think there was a very mechanical life sort of decision. That's the way Dwayne talked about it.
Art's really funny. I mean, you can't just trick art into being a certain way. You can't. Yeah. This without the direct connection of the thing that made Jesus Lizard its own entity, divorced from that. this thing's just a bunch of noise.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I mean, 2 of these songs have lyrics by other people. They're like singing songs written by someone else.
Yeah, Destroy Before Reading.
And Best Parts, the last one. Yeah.
Best Parts is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like I said, this is when I saw them live. So I give this one another kind of wide berth of like, wow, this is great. I love this. Mm-hmm. But I could see on I don't come back to it as much. Like I said, Show is sort of my spot.
This is where a playlist is going to be so amazing for this because, you got to save Mistletoe. You got to save Destroy Before Reading. Plus, the last 3 songs, the record ends very strong. Elegy
is cool, right? That's again kind of in that pastoral.
Elegy is cool. Another kind of codeine sort of a thing. Even more so, Din and the Best Parts. Din is amazing. It's got that really sick slide guitar work. Again, it's completely nuts to me that they didn't explore this aspect of their song arranging just a bit further, because it's only this and Nub off of Goat that really showcase it, and both are mind blowers.
Yeah. Interesting.
You should have done more slide stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think you would go on to do that with other bands and other projects. I wonder if it just pissed everybody off in the band.
This record is not, I don't think, a sellout. I just think it's growing pains. I give it 2 3/4 stars.
Yeah, I'm putting this down. I'll probably put this one at 3 just because the floor keeps going.
That's very generous, sir.
Like I say, this is not objective. This is you're getting it from me who lived this life.
It's your objective truth, bro.
I went and I, they had the records for sale. I'd already owned it on CD, but they were selling it at the merch table. I think I bought a t-shirt. I wore it to school the next day. I went to high school and everybody said, "What is that? What that shirt you're wearing?" I was like, "This is the Jesus Lizard." I saw them. It's funny. We didn't even have tickets. Again, if anybody's a fan of my own personal history, I didn't have tickets, but we went to the show and it was sold out. And but my buddy that I went with, he worked at a shoe store in the mall, and the security guard who was out front, the big bouncer guy, happened to be somebody who he recognized from shopping at the shoe store. And so it was like, "Hey, buddy, we don't have tickets, but we drove all the way out here from the Inland Empire, and it was an hour out." And he's like, if you let us in, if you let us sneak in, well, I'll hook you up with some shoes next time you come in." And it worked. Nice. So just the machinations of being a teenager and trying to get to a show. We didn't buy tickets. We didn't know about that stuff, and just saw if they're playing, we got to go. And being able to sneak in, and he's like, as soon as you get in, just go. You can't come in and out. I'll turn my back, and you guys just got to run in and just stay in the pit. I'm like, okay.
Pretty good at talking my way into places too. And this is I think 4 or 5 days before 9/11. I was in New York. What's it called? The Great American Music Hall?
No.
Is that the place?
That's in San Francisco.
That's San Francisco. Okay. It's something like that.
Bowery Ballroom?
Possibly. And Tenacious D was going to be playing there that night. I wanted Jack Black to star in a feature that I had just written. So that afternoon, I got dressed up, as one does when they go outside. And I just grabbed a briefcase. That was the only thing that got me in. A guy with a briefcase. Of course, post 9/11, the guy with the briefcase would never be allowed in.
Right.
But
they want to see inside of it.
But just the briefcase. I got in. The only 2 people in the building beside me was Jack Black and Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon was playing Benny and the Jets on piano, actively listening to me as I pitched Jack Black on the film. I love doing that shit. Just all you need is a clipboard or a briefcase.
Look like you're supposed to be there.
That's it.
Long way. Yeah.
All right. So we're at the end of phase 1. Phase 2, the big time beckons, AKA what could possibly go wrong? 1995 to 1999. You ever see that Simpsons?
Yes, exactly. Oh, that's the first thing that's ever gone wrong. I actually just watched that last night with my son. That's so funny. It's the Itchy and Scratchy World.
Exactly. I'm so glad you know the reference. Okay. So they signed the Capitol in 1995. They recorded the song Panic and Cicero for the Clerks soundtrack, and really shortly thereafter made appearances at Lollapalooza.
Yeah.
So, all right. First, before we talk about Panic and Cicero, let's talk about the idea of a band as uncompromising as these fuckers finding a tweaked version of their sound that appeals to a larger crowd. And how necessary was that, Randy?
How necessary was it for them to go to Capitol?
Well, the idea of a really uncompromising band, working on a tweaked version of their sound that appeals broader.
Oh, I mean, I know. I think we've said it. The results were dismal. and something was lost, right? It's so hard to know.
When I look back at interviews that they did back in the 92 era, they give super terse, uninterested answers to pretty much everything thrown their way, especially Yao. They were asked, so what's your name mean and who came up with it? Their answer was, we did and nothing. So they seem like they'd rather go to sleep than give interviews. So with that in mind, it's just interesting that they decided to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, just for the glimpses of what I've saw from that introduction to their book, it definitely just sounded like they were tired and they were probably creatively spent to some degree, but there was an opportunity to buy houses and to become adults, to go off to end it on a creative downturn, but a financial win, which was probably smart, and for men of their age and for people and for whatever their lives, whatever the next phase of their life was going to be, why not walk out with bags with dollar signs on them? They deserved it for all the great stuff they'd done. I'm sure they were not getting rich off of Touch and Go. Not that Touch and Go didn't pay bands, you know what I mean, but just the nature of distribution and press and all that stuff.
But those types of bands, I mean, the Touch and Go, the Amphetamine Reptile, I mean, they weren't making SAG. They didn't have to put their money in those cartoon money bags. They could have just used an envelope.
Right. But I'm sure they did well too. I mean, this was CD time, you know what I mean? CDs cost 99 cents to make. They sell them for $13, $15. There was a high profit margin there, and those independent labels, I think, had decent 50-50 splits with the bands. So I'm sure they were making, they were paying their rents and stuff, but it goes from, paying rent on an apartment to buying a house out in the suburbs and setting yourself up for whatever else comes next. I don't know. I think this is my opinion of a man who has a house in the suburbs myself. So, I can understand the mechanics of why they would do that. But creatively, I don't know. They must not have had it because obviously Mac left.
You weren't married when you guys put out your first EPs, were you?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just
those things. Yeah. No. Those. Yeah. We got married in 2012.
I think that's the only stuff I haven't heard from you guys is the non-Weirdo Ripper EP material.
Oh yeah, it's out there. Yeah, we own all that stuff now. It's nice. I think there's a reissue at some point in the works.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's out there. Yeah, I still have the digital 8-track that I recorded it on.
Nice. So, so their first stab at this thing, surprisingly to me, Panic and Cicero, is a fucking classic. I think it's great. Do you like this song?
I do. It's funny. It's on a soundtrack, right? I mean, it's probably leftover material from either down, I would have to imagine.
You know what? I tend to doubt it. And the reason, I could be totally wrong, but this is a statement of intent. The first part of the song, which feels way more by rote. And then the song changes. It's unlike any song they've ever made. It comes in at a minute 32 seconds. Yao howls at that point, and then the subsequent guitar skronk freak out and the fucking screamo party that happens. It actually turns into a drum solo, which I fucking hate. I hate drum solos. And Dean probably hates drum solos. But it's not a show-offy one. It just kind of glides by in the pocket. And for that reason, it's really surprising. And I think it works really, really well. I love this song so much.
Yeah, I think it's a great song. It's just funny. It's a funny release, right? I think it belies the major label sort of marketing machine.
Yeah, and this is not Albini either. So this is Garth Richardson, who had done the Melvin Stoner Witch. Here's the trifecta of the Jesus Lizard downfall. No more Albini, no more Mac on drums, and no more or a disrupted 4-letter album title streak.
Oh.
So that didn't happen until the self-titled Jesus Lizard EP. But I feel like if you're superstitious, that was it. Then they fucked it up. Somehow they had like this really great approach for being able to, record for the majors and do it in a way where they not only maintained their dignity, but they were, still making incredible and relevant music. That happened at least with the first song out of the gate, but not much farther after that. So in 96, Shot comes out. Oh, what are your thoughts on Panic and Cicero? Do you feel like I'm overrating it?
No, I think it is great. It totally works and holds up as a song. Like I said, I think it feels like an older song. It doesn't feel like what they're going to be going into.
So then we're at Shot, produced by same guy, Garth Richardson, and the vibe of the record is definitely different. And also his vocals are, would you say they're much clearer and higher in the mix?
Yeah, it's disturbingly high.
Yeah, like for example, that aristocrats joke.
Right.
That song, his vocals are mixed way down in the mix to where you really have to listen closely to be able to hear and understand these amazing lyrics. So for him to be spotlit like this is just generally a mistake. Yeah,
that's not what you want from this band.
Right.
Yeah, I can see why somebody would do it. Why and again, you wonder, is this a major label thing? Is this what, they were told they needed to sound like? I can't imagine. Who thought it was a good idea? I mean, maybe it was his secret. He wanted to be this heard. I don't know. Yeah. It feels just like bad production. And again, they're just doing whatever they think they're supposed to be doing.
In general, going into Shot here, how are your feelings about this record?
Again, to me, it's just like a why. I remember hearing it at the time, and being excited. Oh, cool, there's another record. This feels different. I don't know. It was one of those kind of like there was no more smoke in the air. It just kind of felt like, okay, well, kind of a shrug. Like, well, I guess, and I mean, I don't think I even bought it. I know maybe this was like something I listened to at Blockbuster Music, when you could do that thing where they'd let you listen to CDs before you bought them.
Yeah.
Being like, well, that's no good.
This one, it really peters out. I mean, at least the first half of the record, I think you have 3 great songs. So
yeah, that Skull of a German, I think was kind of where it falls off.
Yeah, I like that one.
I mean, I like that song, but I think that was the end. And then
after that, it's a fucking piece of shit is what it is. Yeah. It really sucks. But let's focus first on the first half of the record. Thumper is, I think, incredible. It's got a tricky time signature, pretty furious performance, really great opener. And there's moments again where they sound like dead ringers for the Minutemen, which is high praise.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. It's tight.
Yeah.
But you don't hear the room. You don't hear the air around those drums, right? It just feels the bass isn't growling enough. The bass is too clean. The voice is too clean.
Yeah.
Yeah. They lost some of the muck that made it so special.
Are you generally, I mean, do you ever throw this on or never?
No, never. I mean, really, honestly, for this and the next one, I had to listen to this morning just to kind of hear what it sounded like. I'm like, okay. I listened to this once, I think when it came out, said it wasn't for me, moved on. Mm-hmm. And then the other one I hadn't, Blue, I'd never even heard. So I listened to it this morning.
That's rough fucking going. But this
for a band I love so much, you know what I mean? And it's just like, I just remembered it like kind of stopped there.
There's some great stuff on this though. Again, Blue Shot, the second song, fucking awesome. This is easily the most evil, down-tune raging, raw-throated belter about a picnic that I've ever heard. I'm putting it on right now and just like, it's just so clean. It just doesn't feel right. Like, it feels like a demo or something. If you're kind of easy on them, you give them a pass on this because it's still a really good song. But it's like if you're a super passionate Stones fan, which are you?
No, my mom loves Rolling Stones. I've seen them now, I think 7 times, just because my mom loves them so much. So I don't know everything there is to know.
So the transition from Exile on Main Street and Goat's Head Soup into It's Only Rock and Roll. Now you had a logo that goes with the band.
This is their 70s arena vibe.
Yeah. It was like the first, and any song about rocking out, there's going to be a disconnect there. It just doesn't plumb deep enough, right? So these are at their best. These are very finely crafted rock songs. But that's it. The above and beyondness of it all is gone.
Yeah, the bloom is off the rose.
Or maybe not completely gone, but it's quickly dissipating.
And it just feels like, I think when I listen to it, it just feels like they've done better versions of these songs.
Right.
They haven't changed. They haven't become a disco rock band or a garage rock band. They still, the elements of what make them their sound and their playing ability is there, minus the drummer, who's doing a good impersonation of Mac. So, it wasn't like they suddenly all bought Ferraris and started doing coke and now there's chorus and flange on everything.
Right.
So they didn't totally shit the bed. So I think, it's good it's within perspective. But for them as a band who I love so much and had such classic rocking songs, I don't know, Albini was a big part of it, I guess. With him not being there, it signals the fall, right? They're just like, oh, wow.
To have all those things happen at once, they had to have felt unmoored from that point forward.
The drummer, producer, and label, and those things don't necessarily make the band. Mac obviously does, but but they're obviously, it was hard to know how much good influence and goodwill that brought to them in those records.
By the way, what did you give Panic?
Panic, just as a song. We're going. I would put that. I'd put that at 4. Yeah.
The third song, Thumbscrews, I like that one too. It's a revenge song about their supposedly shitty landlord. It's only slightly less impressive, kind of J-Liz light, with some typically amazing, again, with that fucking bottleneck slide. There's only like less than 5 songs where they really actively feature that. But the slide on this is phenomenal.
Yeah, but the voice is still so clean, and maybe he's doing the yowling kind of thing, but it just isn't. Yeah, and the drummer, I don't know. The drums just don't feel as like it just feels like going through the motions.
Yeah. Then you get a couple more songs where I agree, they're going through the motions. Good Riddance. It's got that fucking creepy crawly thing going on, but it does at least feature the line, and the clown became a jagoff. But I'll tell you, the creeping dread thing that they do, the closer that these guys fly to the corporate sun, the less I'm buying that kind of vibe from them.
Right. Yeah. Maybe there's something to be said with presentation of it. How dangerous could you be? Yeah. And it's also, for how long can you do it too? There's something immediate about it and like, whoa, so shocking. And then it comes back again. And it's the damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? If they change, they suck, they sold out, they changed. If you don't change, then you're just regurgitating your same bullshit.
A band like this doesn't need to mature. In my estimation, I mean, you look at certain bands, as you well know, I'm wrapping up the Pavement series right now.
Right.
Those guys, you could never have seen that the same band that made Brighten the Corners wound up making Slay Tracks. It doesn't seem like the same guys. Right. But with the Jesus Lizard, you don't want there to be any maturation going on with these guys.
It was so well formed right out of the 11. Popped out pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I honestly, I could zoom through all of this from here on out. I'm going to become more of a bump on the log. I don't have much to say about these.
Let's slow down and really, really.
All right. Pervertedly slow.
Yeah, so Good Riddance stinks. Mailman's kind of shitty. Skull of a German, it sounds like we both like that.
Yeah, it was funny. It was almost reminding me of like Slayer lyrics or something, where, you take like something from history and you like some atrocity of the World War II thing, and try to form some kind of lyric based around it.
Do you know what this is about?
No,
it's about this guy broke into the Jay Liz's dressing room while they were on stage at Lollapalooza in 95. And he bled all over the catering, took off his clothes, stole David Sims's clothes, and security found him hiding in their bathroom. The security actually offered to allow the band to beat the shit out of him if they wanted to. But apparently he was just so fucking sad and helpless. They booted him out of there and wrote the song.
Wow.
This is a great song, I think. Otherwise, for the rest of the record, the only other good song is Now Then. I know you don't feel as passionately about it as I do, but for 1996's Shot, I'm going to go with 2.5 stars.
I'll put it at 2, just because still sounds like them.
Still a rock band.
Yeah, they would have to be pretty bad to go to the 0 or the 1 category. It still sounds like the band.
After a bunch of touring the following year, this particular lineup recorded 1998 self-titled EP, which is the only record they have whose title is not a 4-letter word. It sucks.
Yeah.
There's production and engineering by Andy Gill of Gang of Four.
Yeah, John
Cale, Jim O'Rourke.
The hell.
And then they did Blue.
Yeah, this Jesus Lizard EP, I'm giving it the 1.
It's interesting. The way they set this up was to basically, they were trying out different producers. They were auditioning them and then using the results on a finished work, which is, again, just like the Stones. For Black and Blue, when Mick Taylor left the band, they were trying out different guitarists, and the rehearsals they would put on this record. Similar kind of a deal, but as an active audition ground for producers instead of guitarists. On the Jesus Lizard EP, I think there's only one great song, Cold Water. It sounds like it's about a dude in a wheelchair sitting in a basement while flood water rises around him. It's a great fucking song, I think. Valentine is an instrumental. The only other song I would conceivably recommend, it's probably also one other thing is Eyesore from this record. Not a great song, but probably the best song ever written about revenge impregnating a KKK member's 5 daughters. Really only necessary for Cold Water, not to mention Valentine. Overall, this feels like square peg, round hole kind of shit to me. I give it 2 3/4 stars.
Yeah, I'm going with a 1 on that one.
1?
Yeah.
After that, we have Blue. Blue is just a complete piece of shit. It really.
Yeah, this is not artwork I would want to have.
It's awful. This is Andy Gill produced it for him. There is nothing that I would recommend from this. Nothing. It's alternative rock in the year 1998. That's all it is.
Yeah, Horse Doctor Man. That's rough.
This one I'm giving 1 star, but I'm being nice.
Yeah, I'll go with you.
1.
Yeah.
All right. In August 1998, Kimball left the group, was replaced by Brendan Murphy on drums. A few more months of heavy touring, and then they played the final gig of their initial career in Sweden on March 27th, 1999. They just failed to find commercial success. And honestly, I don't think that they were ever cut out for it. It never would have happened. After being dropped from Capitol mid-contract, they announced their split the following June. In 99, a CD called Bang came out in 2000. 7-inch
best of.
There's some cool stuff on that. A couple things worth mentioning. Uncommonly Good and The Test. Those 2 songs I'm going to pull off, onto the playlist. The members remained musically active from the band, but of most importance, in 2006, Yao and Sims reformed Scratch Acid.
For the Touch and Go reunion?
Yeah, exactly.
Anniversary, yeah.
25th anniversary. So a week before the festival, the reunited Scratch Acid played to a sold-out crowd at Emo's in Austin. Yao moved to Los Angeles, worked in graphic design for an ad agency, joined the band Quee.
Yeah, Quee. Yeah, I know those guys.
Are they good?
They kind of sounded like Jesus Lizard a little bit. Yes, they're cool. I like that, but they've gone on to do a lot of different stuff. But yeah, that time when they had Yao in the band, it definitely sounded a lot like Jesus Lizard.
There's been a couple of reunion tours. 2008. The second reunion was 2017.
I saw them on both of those. I saw the 2008. We played All Tomorrow's Parties up in upstate New York.
That's right.
I think it was Flaming Lips curated. One and yeah, I actually jumped up on stage and ripped David Yao's shirt off.
Oh, nice! That is awesome, dude.
Yeah, it felt appropriate at the time. I was overcome with joy to see them again. It was really
so cool.
And then the 2017, I saw them also.
Who do you go to a Jesus Lizard concert with?
My good friend Noel Paris. He has a studio called Bionic Ear down in Orange County, and I knew he was a fan, and so I had asked him. I got tickets and asked if he wanted to go. Yeah, we had a great time.
I'll tell you one thing for sure. If they get back together again, I will definitely be there. So I want to talk about the overview and shape of their arc. They were the Stooges of the 90s, a perfectly perfect distillation of the raw, uncompromising spirit of dick-flashing, performative, thrill-seeking, and pure limit-flirting rock and roll. But just like dirty old men fantasize about sullying the innocence of eyelash-batting young women, so too did record companies in the 90s seem to almost consciously set out to ruin the innate perfection of all that was good and noble during that decade's indie scene. But we still have that first 5 years of their career to prove that they had what it took once upon a time to fuck up your kids and keep them that way forevermore. Their top 3 records, the third one, I'm going to go with Liar. The second one, Head. And the first one, I'll give you one motherfucking good goddamn guess. The worst album, 1998's Blue, pure garbage. How about yourself, sir?
I think I'm right there with you. I would throw in Show, though, because, and again, like I said, this was kind of my favorite record. I think Show and Lash have to have some kind of standing up there. Obviously, I think Goat, because that's where the majority of the songs first originated from on Show. So I would say, I would probably put Goat, Show, Liar, and then Lash, and then Head. That'd probably be that's the order I would go for my top 5, and then worst, Blue, and then self-titled.
Yeah, those are just indefensible. We did it. We got to the end.
Oh my God.
Your wife didn't kill you. I want to thank you.
I have 4 kids' birthday parties to go to today, just so you know. This is
shit, dude.
This is what this is you I think you hit the nail on the head. Yes, I've enjoyed this thoroughly, but I am about to go bang my head on the wall or at the park.
Smash your head on the punk rock.
Yes, yeah.
So obviously you have people helping people coming out, and you got a tour coming out.
Yes.
So talk to me about plugging things.
Oh, okay.
I've heard the record. It's well worth plugging. It's another in a long line of masterworks. Tell me what you want to plug, sir.
Yes, well, People Helping People is out on Drag City. It's available on all the streamers. And for a band going on our 6th or 7th full length record, and over here talking shit about Jesus Lizard getting old on their side, I can't help it. Hopefully, not feel hypocritical. It is tough, and I have absolute empathy and sympathy for all bands who make more than one record. It is not easy to do, and I can understand that also. Dean and I are continually challenging each other and pushing each other, which I think makes for interesting art, hopefully. And we're finding, that center of the Venn diagram of what he's into and what I'm into is perpetually shifting and moving. And so I think that's literally where, we've had to kind of come to this understanding of that where our two interests, crossover is where No Age exists. So because we sort of look at every new record as that, the window of what defines what No Age can be. Hopefully we're changing, maturing, or just changing and keeping it interesting. I think this new record is definitely a different one. It's kind of more of a studio experimental project, where the last record we did was called Goons Be Gone, also for Drag City, is our second one for them. But that was going to be full of hubris, and that we didn't understand. That was our live record. That was the live one that we wrote just to take out on the road, because we were so excited to go to tour for the summer of 2020. Unbeknownst to us, little did we know what was coming for the summer of 2020.
Right.
And so it was a funny kind of pivot. So I think this record kind of comes out there. Anyway, but I'm just pitching.
If I don't like your record, I'm just not going to bring up that it's a good idea for you to plug it.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
You guys are consistently great. You have so much integrity. It's oozing from your collective aesthetic pores.
Oh my God.
What is
I do my best to try to sell out on every record, and Dean keeps me an honest DIY man.
My brother, any artist that's going to release an ambient song from their new record of actual songs has zero interest in selling out.
That's true.
All right, that about does it. If you enjoyed this episode, then Venmo Gebroe. You can tip me using the handle at David-Gebroe, that's Gebroe, or using PayPal, where you can find me using my email, davidbgebroe@gmail.com. Please keep in mind this is entirely how I support my wife and 5-year-old son, so don't risk feeling badly about yourself by not giving. Stay tuned, because next week we've got part 1 of my interview with the incredibly talented Cassandra Jenkins. Okay, here's the week up ahead. This Sunday, our weekly show within a show, the Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound podcast, drops for our Patreon's private tier. These are real people with talent and a burning fire deep inside, just like you and I. Then come Monday, an episode for our major tier about the incredible Ted Lucas, who released one of the greatest private press folk albums of all time back in 1975. And then on Wednesday, the early release ad-free director's cut of the Discograffiti interview with Cassandra Jenkins rolls out for our lieutenant tier. It's the show as it was truly intended to be heard, with a massive amount of essential additional material included. And then come Friday, the public version premieres. A heartfelt Discograffiti thanks goes out to my beautiful wife and son, Jen and Mason, Randy Randall, Ipecac Recordings, The Jesus Lizard, Rudy Fishman, Becky Boyd, Jay Schultz, my incredibly loyal fans, and especially the entire Patreon community, the Soldiers of Sound. I love every last one of you, and this show would not exist without you, my friends. Speaking of friends, it's high time for some new ones. They're in our Facebook group, Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound. That's the best way to find out what's coming up on the show, but there's a hell of a lot more. You get recaps of the day in music history, the ability to pitch questions to guests, polls that put you in the driver's seat on guest and band decisions, access to a thriving creative hub if you're looking for a collaborator, and much, much more. So make sure you don't miss out. You can find the link to the Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound Facebook page right there in the show notes. And if you don't mess with the Zuck, no sweat. Just email me at info@discograffiti.com and I'll keep you in the loop. So now that it's done and you want more, another way to dive even deeper into the heavier end of the rock spectrum is to leap headfirst into Mike Watt rating the Minutemen. That's episodes 124 to 126. David Pajo rates Slint. That's 100 to 101. Andrew Tuttle rates the Monks. That's episode 74. Jim Florentine rates Black Sabbath. That's 64 to 68. Bob Nastanovich rates the entire Pavement discography. That's 49 to 56. Nirvana. That's episode 30. Bob Mayer rates the Replacements. That's 28 and 29. Pixies is episode 18. PJ Harvey's episode 12. And Van Halen's episode 9. And of course, be sure to mark your calendars, because next Friday, September 20th, we're coming at you with Cassandra Jenkins. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. And so, from now till then, don't let our youth go to waste, lads and ladies. It's Discograffiti!